Hello and welcome to another edition of the Forza Napoli podcast. I am your host, Joe Fischetti. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. On today's episode, we are going to review Napoli's first victory in the new Champions League format, a 2-1 victory over Sporting Lisbon on Wednesday. There was goals from Højlund. There was a penalty kick we conceded. There was all kinds of things going on. So we are going to talk all about that. There was another makeshift back line with Di Lorenzo suspended and Rachmani and Buongiorno injured. But the real story for me, at least, I think, was the attack. And we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail. But first, let me introduce my guest who is going to help me out with all of that. He is the man behind the music of the podcast, the new music of the podcast. Frank Pilla, welcome back.
Thank you, my man. Great to be back. Thanks for the invite.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I should warn everyone, we tend to agree on everything. So I may just play devil's advocate a little bit just to spice things up a little bit because we think alike, but that's okay. Like I said, I want to start with some individual performances. Normally I start the pods with just general thoughts on the way Napoli played, some things we might have learned, especially early in the season. We're still trying to get a sense of how Conte is going to play with all these new players. But I think we need to start with the attack and specifically the play of Kevin De Bruyne, because something we didn't cover a ton on the last episode because we recorded that one literally right after the Milan game, even though the episode came out a bit later. So to be honest, I didn't even notice that De Bruyne didn't give Conte a high five after he was subbed out of that Milan match. And then we recorded before Conte's post-match press conference. And in the press conference, he had a typical Conte quote where he was asked about De Bruyne being upset. And he said, well, if he's upset, I hope he's upset about the result and not for any other reason, because if he's upset for any other reason, then he's dealing with the wrong person. So, of course, the media had an absolute field day with that throughout the week. That's just like music to their ears. And then De Bruyne comes into this match and just silences everything with the performance he put in with these 2 assists.
Yeah, that was amazing. But it took a while for him to get going. Like the announcers kept talking about how wet the pitch was, how bad it was raining, how the ball was sticking. So I felt like in the beginning, there were a bunch of passes, not just from him, from everybody. They were not going anywhere. Like they had to put a lot of extra muscle into these balls to get them where they needed to be. But KDB is another level, man. It's almost like he's too advanced. I was talking about this with a few guys where he's so advanced that like it looks like he might send a ball into nowhere land, but realistically someone should be there. So it almost looks like he's a step behind, but really he's 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about him getting accustomed to the Napoli system. It's almost like all of Napoli needs to get accustomed to him in a way. Like you're right. He is at that level. And there's just, you see it, and we've seen it in previous matches as well. Like I do think this was probably his best performance in a Napoli shirt so far, but he just makes passes that nobody even sees, right? And I think this performance really highlighted why he's a world-class player in terms of his vision, his passing, his dribbling. Like the first goal, right? That was De Bruyne in a nutshell, where Anguissa wins the ball. He plays a quick give and go. De Bruyne does with Anguissa.
Twice.
Just destroys his man with one touch while he's running downhill, and then plays a perfect through ball to Højlund, and we open the scoring. Like pretty much a play that came out of nothing.
And we played up the middle a lot. A lot of passes were kind of 1-2s up the middle, 1-2s final third, and then a shot. Like there was a lot. All the give and goes. It took me back to like sorry ball level passing. It was less wing play, less outside. Like there was a lot of plays from the outside. Don't get me wrong. Between Politano and Spina tried his best. I mean, I think Spina looked a little bit out of position. I love Spina. Like I joke and say I'm the president of the Spina fan club. But on the right side, he was still great, but he just looked a little less natural. Like I saw even Spina veering towards the middle, almost just because he felt like he needed to go left.
I wonder
Or
though,
wide.
because we also see Di Lorenzo moving into the middle a lot too. So I agree. Like obviously that's not his natural position,
Yeah,
but we do. I think this is what Conte wants. He wants to create this overload in the middle of the park, and he even said in his post match press conference that when we play with this 4-1-4-1 formation, we often and willingly dominate play. Um, and he said, De Bruyne gives us that ability, just like Raspadori gave us the ability to play in a 4-4-2 because of his characteristics. So I completely agree. Certainly, on playing up the middle. We'll get to Spinazzola in a minute because I do want to talk more about him
yeah. I
and
didn't
his
mean to jump the gun
performance.
there.
No, that's okay. Um, the second goal was also kind of like a typical De Bruyne play. It was nothing, otherworldly. It was like I guess a set
I
piece
don't
on the
know. I mean,
corner
I
kick.
couldn't put that ball there. So
But and maybe that's the thing. It's one of these things that we maybe will take for granted because it just looks like a cross, but it was perfectly placed. It's whipped in with pace. So Højlund,
Højlund
who
had
we're
to play
also going
that
to
tough
talk about,
too. Like Højlund had to really muscle his way to get a
right?
piece of that.
Yeah. So well, let's talk about Højlund because he was the other big part of the attack, I think, right? And for me, I think this performance kind of solidified him as the clear starting striker in Lukaku's place.
Even when he comes back.
No, I mean until he comes back. When he comes
Okay.
back, then we'll see.
Yeah,
But
no doubt.
there was it would kind of felt like at the start there might be a competition between Højlund and Luka to see like who is the preferred starter in Lukaku's absence. I think if he plays this way, it's still very early, and we need to see. Like he had the goal in his first appearance, and then he didn't score again until this match. So we need to see. One of the criticisms of him at United was that he wasn't terribly consistent. So we need more time. But I think if he continues to play like this, he might even challenge Lukaku for that starting role. Or am I getting a little crazy with that thought?
I just don't. I don't think a player is going to lose a starting spot from an injury. So I can see Lukaku being on maybe a shorter leash when he
Mhm.
comes back, but I don't think he should lose the starting spot. Ease him into it, like once he gets back to fitness and everything, by all means. But I don't think he's going to lose that spot. Højlund's been fantastic, but also he has KDB now, and he made a comment after the game saying, "No wonder why Haaland scored all those goals."
Yeah.
Like having KDB in a lineup is a totally
It's a
different
change.
situation than
Yeah.
what he was at Man U.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's true. I think what it may do is it may afford us like the time to really make sure Lukaku is ready to come back
yeah,
and doesn't suffer a setback because we know we have a quality player. But I mentioned it in the last episode as well. I do feel like Højlund is more of the sort of like for like replacement for Lukaku in terms of his characteristics. Like he's big, he's strong. We saw him holding the ball up. One of the guys shared in our chat a video of Mark Goldbridge like talking about Højlund. He was a big United YouTube guy, and how he also mentioned having De Bruyne like serving him the ball, and how there are times um, when Højlund would drop deep because he's so accustomed to doing that at United because he would get no service, and strikers tend to drop deep when they don't get service because they want the ball, they need the ball. And now with De Bruyne, he doesn't really need to do that. It's just kind of like, don't worry, you just make your runs and I'll find you.
hmm
But I do also think he's dropping deep intentionally sometimes because he's still doing that kind of hold up role that Lukaku is doing. And he has kind of like if you think of like Lukaku when he was at Inter the first time under Conte, where he was big and strong, but also had pace and a finish. That's what I saw from Højlund in this match, right? Like again, going back to that first goal, De Bruyne's pass wasn't perfect, actually. It was perfectly placed, but maybe because of the water on the pitch or whatever, I thought it was just slightly behind Højlund, but he kind of, as he was in stride, reached back a little bit and pulled it forward. And then it was like the just pure striker instinct just took over. It was like that one
Right
touch,
through the legs.
yeah, look up and through the legs of the keeper. And my brother was a striker, still is a striker in men's league, and like you can pure strikers are better when they have less time to think, right? Where it's just instinct takes over and their body just does what it's done over and over again. Whereas like if you ever see a striker that has like a breakaway from, I don't know, 30 yards out, they often blow those opportunities because they get in their own head, they start thinking about what they want to do and they mess it up. Um, so he's got that pure striker ability in finishing. But then what we also saw, and you alluded to this earlier on the second goal, was the willingness and the bravery to go attack that ball with a keeper coming out, challenging for it to win that header, and then still place that in the top corner.
Even on the first goal, he had to muscle his way through two defenders to get to that ball in the first place. Like it wasn't a gimme. Like the ball wasn't dropped at his feet
Right.
for a tap. Like he still had to work for it. And it was, I think it was Vin. He said he reminds him a lot of like Osimhen in that sense, the way he'll really work to the ball and fight
Right.
for it. And he's a lot stronger than I kind of imagined.
I noticed that as well, and bigger too. Like he was
Yeah,
standing beside, I think it was one of the center backs, or maybe even close to Vanya, and he was like pretty not that far off in terms of like nobody's as tall as Vanya, but he doesn't. Maybe because he's one of these. It's kind of like LeBron James, like, not in terms of star power or anything like that, but just these athletes that they're so big, but he's proportionate. He's built right, like he doesn't look as big as he is because he looks like a pure athlete. And yeah, we saw that physicality where he was just bullying people, bodying them, shrugging, like shoving them off the ball. I was that really stood out to me in his performance is just his
I
strength and
I
physicality.
noticed that with Lukaku when he was on Inter and we were playing against him. Like I
Yeah.
didn't like. It's almost like you take his size for granted until you have something to compare him with, and he ends up standing next to like Mario Rui or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. So both of them I thought obviously two goals for Højlund, two assists for De Bruyne. Fantastic for them. Conte got his high five from De Bruyne when he came off. So I think the drama can be put to bed. He was asked about that after the match as well, and he just kind of said like, "Well, I don't think there was any issues to begin with, but it's great to see. He's a great player to have in the team, which goes without saying." The other player, and we touched on it earlier that I wanted to get your thoughts on, also because you saw him live, and I think you were really impressed, if I recall.
Oh yeah,
You mentioned you're the president of the fan club was Spinazzola. As you said, like this wasn't as good of a performance as some of the previous matches, but I think for me it was just the fact that he was playing and able to play on the opposite side because Di Lorenzo was suspended.
and
That
he
just
wasn't a liability at all. Like
exactly. And just for me just increased his value even more because it's like now we already knew he was flexible because last season he finished the season playing at left wing because of all the injuries we had there.
he was the Kavara replacement.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And now he's playing at right back as well. So maybe we don't even need to sign one though. I don't know. But uh, just what are your thoughts on not just his performance from this match, but his performance to date this season?
He's caught his stride this season, like for sure, no doubt. And he leveled up quite a bit. Like from last year, he was the go-to solid stalwart. He didn't have any deficiencies. He was there in defense. He was there in attack. But like this year, he has like this flair. And uh, I saw him against Cagliari, and in the second half, they switched sides. So obviously, I had Spina on my side of the stadium, and seeing him live, like dragging the ball and dancing, and it was amazing. I was so impressed. It's things you don't. I couldn't catch it on TV, but when I ended up in front of the guy, I was like, it, this resurgence and this like him coming back after this injury, and after the Scudetto year, it's like I don't see how he can keep getting better.
The only thing I can attribute it to is Conte because he seems to somehow make everybody better. But
Yeah.
he's he's doing so well that now there's a lot of talk that he should be called up to the Nazionale, and
He's the best left back, the best Italian left back right now.
well, and you mentioned Vin. Vin said he could even be the best left winger we have right now.
Yeah,
So, again, that flexibility is especially valuable for when you're playing on international duty because the squad
I don't
sizes
want
are
to see him
limited.
there. Like wait for the season's done and then bring him
Yeah,
to the
that
World.
selfishly you don't because you don't want him to
Yeah,
get hurt. Or yeah, 100%.
club over country, baby.
Yeah. um, but yeah, no, I was impressed with him as well, and like even his stamina. Like this guy was still. I remember in stoppage time, he won a tackle 1v1 in our own third, and then played the ball off the winger for a throw in. And this is like 92nd, 93rd minute, and he was still going strong. Unbelievable for a player at that age to get better still. And again, like I feel like I keep saying this is the closest he's been to the pre Achilles injury, and then he's getting better and better. He's getting closer and closer to that Spinazzola, which is wild. Like he was, we forget now, but he was probably a shout for a player of the tournament up until he got hurt. So yeah, Conte once again is doing his thing.
Which
Were
is
there
surprising. Like you figure there'd be more wear on these guys with the way Conte works in practice and like a lot of
yeah,
players are that when they go to play for him, like they know it's not going to be a cakewalk. They're sprinting. There's no there's no dragging their ass around practice.
and what I've read as well is that Spinazzola is one of the better players in practice as well. And that's something, if you're wondering why guys like him or Juan Jesus, for example, or Politano get into the lineup, it's because they earn it in training.
Well, against Man City, when D'Lo got the red, I thought right away, okay, De Bruyne or Lobo is going to get the armband, and he gave it to Politano.
Politano.
So I was like, that came as a shock to me. And then KDB subbed off, so I said, okay, it makes sense. Like I guess Politano. And then yesterday with Politano with the captain band from the start, like that goes to show what's going on in the locker room and in training with a guy like Politano now that he can be trusted with the armband. Whereas I thought, it would have been either KDB when Politano subbed off, it went to Lobo.
Yeah.
So that I thought made sense. But to be the vice captain, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and again, like what I've read is those three, so Spinazzola, Politano, and Di Lorenzo are the most vocal people in training. Lobo, I feel like he's like the more silent leader type, and I think that's right as well. Um, but even like Juan Jesus, right? A guy that most of us laughed at, you know, and wanted him gone, and every summer we want him gone. But Conte said it too, and I think I agree. Like, I think what did he describe him as? I can't remember the exact description he used, but he basically said like this guy's irreplaceable, or like we need to lock him up for another 5 years or whatever. And again, he's showing why coach after coach after coach. We're probably on our third, maybe fourth coach since we signed Juan Jesus, and they keep keeping him in the lineup.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted him gone so bad. I'm like, okay, as our fifth center back, I guess if it comes that down to that, whatever, we'll deal with him. But like injury fill after injury fill, yeah, he's playing amazing, and he's what 34 now, I think.
Yeah, he's up there. It feels like he's even older, but he's probably around that age, which I guess is not terribly old for a center back, but he's making plays where he's tracking back. Like he won a couple tackles where he tracked back and won the tackle from behind, which is kind of risky.
Through my game notes, I kept writing, "What a tackle by Jesus! What a tackle! What a block!
Yeah,
Perfect position!" Like he's doing everything right.
yeah. And it's such a luxury, especially with these injuries that we've had. You know, I think whoever maybe it probably was Conte, but whoever decided to keep him as a fifth option ended up making the right call there because, you know,
Absolutely.
I hope this is not just a career thing with Buongiorno of, always being injured, but it's not
I
looking
know.
great so
It's
far.
concerning now.
Yeah. Yeah. The last individual I want to shout out is Vanya Milinkovic-Savic, mostly for the save at the end of the match. But again, like it seems like he's the right keeper for Champions League matches, and Medet's probably the right keeper for Serie A. I know there are a lot of people that would just want Vanya playing every match, but so far it seems to be working quite well.
What surprised me the most during the game was I found out he was born in Spain. I didn't.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that prior to this match, but yeah, and then his transfer to Manchester United got blocked because of passport issues or something, and that's how he ended up in Italy. So, yeah.
I like him. I like him. Like honestly, I would take him over Moret 9 times out of 10. Just from like his presence. He makes himself known when he's in the box. He's loud. He's pointing. He's directing guys. He's yelling. He's coming out for corners. Moret Moret has the skill set, but I don't think he has like the leadership qualities to be able to really. I mean, you know what? The guy's won 2 Scudetti at this point, so I
Mhm.
can't say a bad thing about him really. But like we're talking about 1A and 1B, and it could be a coin flip, but I would prefer that coin flip to land on Vanya's head than Moret's tails.
There was one play that he made that I mentioned to you offline where because you missed a small portion of the at the start of the first half, and there was one play where I think you just caught the end of it where Gutierrez attempted kind of like a pass back from midfield and I guess mishit the ball and it ended up like at the corner flag, but Vanya got there, he kept it in, and then he's got this insane long ball. He launched it forward. I think it was Højlund that won the header, and we ended up getting a chance out of like a play that in most cases probably would have been a corner kick for the other team.
Yeah, I turned around and all I saw was Vanya darting to the corner, and I was like, "Oh God, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" And then just sent it.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're good.
Um before I go to the penalty kick, because that was maybe one area if I think most Napoli fans would probably say like if we wanted to pick Meret in any situation, penalty kicks is probably it because he has a fantastic
Yeah,
record. But I
yeah, I
mentioned
give
that
you that.
pass from Gutierrez. You were having a little debate with some of our Napoli friends
Yeah,
on him. And this is obviously not to suggest like we got to get rid of anyone
no,
or anything like that, but um, you suggested maybe he's getting a little overly praised.
he's not first team quality at all. Like, there's no doubt he's below Spinazzola, but I would take Oliveira over him too. There's so many times, even against Milan, like Salad Maker's goal against Milan, that was partially Gutierrez's fault. Like it was his side, it was his man. I know Marinucci came in and tried to do slide tackle of the year in his first 4 minutes of his debut, but he got caught totally ball watching with Salamakers flying down the right flank and just like it was a beautiful goal, great pass. Don't get me wrong from Pulisic, but like a lot of the blame goes to Gutierrez on that one. And I just found so many times watching against Sporting that I'm catching him out of position where he should be there. His man's open. His man has the ball. He's not tracking back. Like I just, he's not a first team quality player on a Scudetto winning side.
What I would say is
But he's
not yet.
not. He's
Like,
not. He's a fill-in. He's an injury fill-in. So
yeah,
I shouldn't be
I
as
think he
hard on
has
the
the
guy.
potential though. That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
he
No,
was. I don't think he was brought in to be an automatic starting player. Just as I didn't think Mariucci was or Lang was. Like we know Conte likes to give these guys time and ease them into the lineup, and you can see why because when we do see these guys playing, you can tell when they're kind of a little bit out of place, and I do get that kind of sense with Gutierrez a little bit. I described him as more of a traditional left back last episode in the sense that like he doesn't have that same attacking intent that a Spinazzola has or a Di Lorenzo does on the other side. But I'm
Yeah,
holding out
like
hope
I
that
think he
he's
can get
something
there.
that,
I think he
yeah,
has the skill set to be able to get into that role. Like Spinazzola didn't really do it until he was really comfortable within the squad, anyways.
yeah,
And like Gutierrez kind of impressed me more on offense than he did on defense, which on a Conte's team, like you should be defense first, especially as a fullback. But like against Milan, when I think it was him that all the memes with all the 4,000 Napoli players chasing Leao now. I think it was Gutierrez that made the tackle, right?
it was, and it was a nice clean tackle on Leao. Yeah,
So yeah, I have no doubt we can ease him into it, and his potential's there. Like he's filling the role of a third left back, I think.
yeah,
So you can't be too hard on the guy, but yeah, he's not our starter.
yeah, and he was starting by necessity. I don't know what's going on with Oliveira because I thought he would have started this match, so I guess he was still. There's a few guys dealing with like muscle fatigue and stuff, so I guess that was more. Maybe it was either precautionary or maybe Conte felt good enough with his performance against Milan that he felt comfortable playing Gutierrez in this match.
Maybe.
I fully expect Oliveira to, or Spinazzola even, to start against Genoa at the weekend. Um, let's move on. I mentioned the penalty kick earlier. The
I think it's
penalty
good.
itself, like the finish was good enough. I would never blame a goalkeeper for conceding a goal. But I think what stood out to me more was that I'm not even sure Politano touched the Sporting player on this play.
I can't believe there was no review. Like the ref was dead set on the decision, pointed to the spot immediately, but Politano kind of came off as guilty by pulling his leg back, putting his hands by his side, kind of slumping his shoulders. But when you look at the replay, I don't think he got a shoelace on him. Like it was there. There was I didn't see any contact.
Neither
It
did I.
shouldn't.
I think you're right. Like I think it was Politano's reaction more than anything that like he looked so guilty. So I just probably the official Danny Macchielli, whatever his name is. I think he probably saw that reaction as well and figured like he must have touched him because he looks so guilty. Um, but like even throughout the match, it felt like I always think that the calls like Champions League is more like the Premier League in terms of the officiating, and what I mean by that is that they tend to let them play more. They allow a bit more physicality, but I thought it was kind of the opposite in this case, where like he was giving a lot of really soft fouls,
It definitely
especially and a lot of them against us.
definitely felt lopsided. Like the amount of possession we had for the amount of fouls that we were getting called for, it was every foul was against us while we had possession at like 65% at one point.
Yeah, yeah. The possession start like it was. I didn't get to watch the match live, so I was like at work, like checking constantly on my phone. I should have just watched it on my phone at that point. I was staring at my phone anyways. But I like at one point we were really dominating the possession early on. It was like 67%. And then it kind of started to even out as we approached the midway point of the half, and maybe part of that was because of the officiating.
Even there was a few plays Højlund had possession of the ball and got a foul called against him. Like a defender would,
Yeah.
he was letting Sporting get away with so much more physicality versus us. Like if we went tit for tat with them on what they were doing versus what we were doing, we would have probably had 3 red cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost like I don't know, you couldn't the one thing I would say is that at least he was consistent. I you know, I don't mind as much if an officials but you also have to be consistent with both teams, not just
Exactly.
one team.
Like it wasn't blatant of me being a homer saying, "Oh, you're not calling anything on Napoli, and it's all going against us." But when you're dominating possession, you have the ball most of the time, and you're at like a 4-1 foul against four ratio. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
There
not it's not
was
impossible, like statistically.
yeah, and especially when you're calling soft fouls because you can find those all over the pitch. So
Yeah.
how they keep getting called against us is a little suspect. Thankfully, it didn't cost us in the end.
The commentating was a little bit biased too, I thought.
Did you think
Like
so?
when Politano got that penalty, they were freaking out. What a bonehead move! That was ridiculous. How can he do that? He's wearing the armband, and even KDB had something in the first half where he kind of went spikes up on a block, and
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
announcers were freaking out that he didn't get a yellow. When I saw the replay, I don't know, it looked like a 50-50 ball to me for the most part. Like I don't even think I would have called a foul on KDB, let alone a yellow.
Yeah, you could have even called the foul the other way because he got the ball and it's not his
Yeah,
studs weren't fully out. They were kind of his foot was kind of turned and he got ended up getting kicked pretty hard on the side of his foot. So yeah, there was another play even in the second half where I can't remember exactly which one, but it was seemed pretty blatant that wasn't given as well. And even the commentator called it out. But again, thankfully we weren't impacted by the officiating, which is a good thing, even
mm-hmm.
though we called it
Good
out.
point.
I do think just moving on to Napoli's play in general, I thought there were a few interesting things. I thought there were some positives. Like it wasn't our best performance by any means. Um, in that I don't think we created a ton. Like the XG in this match was actually it was only 0.88 to 1.35, but out of that 1.35, usually 0.8 is given for a penalty kick. So the non-penalty xG would have been 0.88 to 0.55, which kind of feels about right to me in terms of like chance creation for both sides. I think the difference was that we were the more clinical team with Højlund, whereas Sporting, while they had some pretty good chances, didn't make the most of them.
No, outside of that guy, Kenda, they didn't have a lot going on. Like
Yeah.
Kenda, oh, our favorite phrase came popped into my head when I saw him. He dribbled from the left side of the pitch to the center on a 90, maybe around like two or three of our guys, and I said, "Oh, he's dribbling through raindrops." And then I think he drew a foul too. But outside of him, no. I mean, they had what did they by halftime? They had one shot on target. Like
Yeah. They had one counter attack that I was really impressed with because it was like a 3v5 and they somehow passed their way all the way up the fielding. It might have been that same kind of chance
I think
where he
Gutierrez
skied it
blew
up.
that one too. That was the one where the ball went just above Vanya, like just
Yeah,
above the
he was going
crossbar.
like top
Yeah,
corners
no,
or yeah,
that was Gutierrez's side and Gutierrez's man.
yeah.
I know exactly what play you're talking about because I was.
Mental note on that one. But at the same time, like this clinical finishing, um, I think it showed that this version of Napoli, and obviously De Bruyne has a large part in it, is very efficient. Like I actually went back on the first goal. I just out of curiosity, I said like, how many touches did we make on this counter attack? Not passes, like touches. So dribbling counts each touch of the ball, and I counted 9 touches to go from about the top of from Anguissa winning that tackle, 9 touches for the ball to be in the back of the net on the opposite side of the pitch, which that is as direct and efficient as you can be. Um, and I think the
Yeah,
counter attack in general is going to be a more pronounced part of our attack this season.
yeah. Vanya sending the long ball was good too. He
Yeah.
and we managed to gain a lot of possession on those. They weren't just like blank clearances where he was just trying to get it out. We managed to retain possession and actually develop a couple
Mhm.
chances from that. On the first goal, Anguissa's 1-2 to De Bruyne back and forth and back and forth. There was two 1-2s to them before De Bruyne started going up the middle, which we were playing up the middle a lot. That was great. But the passing took me right back to like sorry ball. It it felt great just seeing these guys string off pass.
Well, the
It was
old
beautiful.
man in me loves the long ball too. Like it's just old school, you know, classic Italian football. Just launch it, get it long. But we have the personnel that, for one, Vanya can play a long ball into the opposition's area, so that helps. But then again, like we talked about the size of Højlund, he won a number of those 50-50s that then led to chances. Like there was the one where I think it was either Anguissa or Politano cut it back to De Bruyne and he hit it first time from the edge of the area and finished over the bar. But I'm pretty sure it started from just a long ball forward.
Yeah, and Gisa had one of those too. It was like,
Yeah, they both did. Yeah.
yeah. It- I felt after that, I was saying like Conte needs to run a training session with like weights strapped to these guys' heads to keep their heads down because they're just leaning back
Leaning
and like
back. Yeah, that's what
rocketing
happens.
these things.
Yeah.
But the subs have a lot to do with it too. I noticed even with Luca, especially, like he was driving me nuts when his first couple games, like not
Yeah.
generating anything, really not hustling. And I understand if you're a starting striker versus a striker subbing in the 80th minute, you kind of have to bring a different dynamic. So Luca kind of changed his approach with the last two games where he subbed in late. He has like a much higher work rate now. He's really chasing the ball down. And obviously, Lang and Neres are going to try and run circles around guys and be as flashy and flary as they can while still being effective. Neres, especially on the right side. I love seeing him on the right side now.
Yeah.
And Lang still, he's got to figure out a way to fit in a little bit better, I think. But I mean, his efforts there. I got to see his debut against Cagliari when he subbed in. That was pretty exciting. I'm impressed with both of them, but Neres really stands out on the right, and Lucas kind of shifted his mindset now to be a high energy sub rather than a player that's going to play for 90 minutes and really needs to manage his stamina.
And I think that's perfect for him because it started like the pressure was starting to mount on him with him, playing in that starting role, not
Mm-hmm.
scoring. And we saw how he reacted after scoring that goal against Pisa. But I feel like that's the best place for him right now. Like I think he will come good. He just needs time. He's very young, and Højlund playing well is now also benefiting Luca, in my opinion, and giving
Just to
him
take the
the
pressure
time.
off.
Yeah, take the pressure off. Listen, you don't need to be that guy. Learn, practice, do your thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll be good. And I I don't mean like 2-3 seasons from now. I mean like later this season. I think he'll play a more important role, even if it's still just coming off the bench, but giving us because what we're seeing is a pretty clear kind of idea of how Conte wants to use his players and in what formations. And it looks to me, again, it might change because of all the games that we're playing, but if he, let's say everybody's rested, coming back from an international break or a random week where we only have one match, it looks like we're going to play the 4-1-4-1. We're going to use the four midfielders, play them for about 65, 70 minutes, depending on the situation. And then when we make our changes, we're going to take off one of those midfielders. So far, it's been De Bruyne mostly, but I'm sure, okay, it'll be Anguissa sometimes or McTominay, probably McTominay more because Anguissa just never comes off. um, and then when we do that, we bring in the two wingers. Politano probably comes off at the same time. So then we bring on Lang and Neres. And now we play in a 4-3-3. And I think eventually Luca will come on earlier to play in that 4-3-3 as well, because I think just having that big guy with two wingers makes a lot of sense. Even though, as we said, Højlund is pretty big himself. What I really liked about Neres was just his confidence, because even in the Milan game, he was the guy taking the shots, right? And he was cutting in from that wing. Was it the Milan game or was it this game that he was? No, I think it was the Milan game. This game
Both,
he was more like
both teams.
yeah, but this game he was more like the outlet that could just go chase down a long ball and hold it up, or maybe try to steal an extra goal. But in the Milan game, he was the one that tested Magnan at the end or hit the corner of the goal on the
Yeah.
deflection. Right, he was coming in, and it's because he was playing on the right, as you said. He was basically doing the Politano thing because he's
Well,
left-footed, cut into the
he's
middle and shoot.
he's definitely taking notes from Politano or something because against Sporting, we saw him track back, like towards the end of the game, we saw him track back right back to our corner
Yeah,
and win the ball. Like he's not just an offensive threat. He's really tracking back. He's really getting back on D. Like he's kind of playing this wing back role while still being a forward. And like I was really impressed with Gilmore too.
yeah.
Seeing Gilmore come in, and every time I see Gilmore with Lobotka, I'm like, oh, what are we doing? Why do we have this? Like they're basically
The
one for
two,
one.
yeah,
They're like twins. If Lobotka's not in, it should be Gilmore. But to have
yeah.
them both on the pitch at the same time, I'm always freaking out, and it works. Like I don't know,
I
they
love
managed to
it. I
find
don't want to see
ways.
it all the time, but I
But
love when I do see it.
but then I don't know. This formation isn't really a 4-3-3 on these subs because it's almost like they both have the defensive. They both have their own defensive half of the pitch.
And
It's
the four
wild.
one four one is not really a 4-1-4-1 either,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Like
like we see
that's just on paper.
playing further back than Laboca at times.
Yeah, it's very, very fluid, right? They play off of each other. And you're right. There are times where KDB is the guy that drops to spearhead the attack, and then Lobotka will move, or vice versa. There's KDB just gets to roam wherever he wants. So yeah, on paper it's a 4-1-4-1, but it's very, very fluid.
Yeah, I saw KDB's heat map from this year, and it showed him very like in the attacking left portion of the pitch. Now, I never really noticed it in game, but I would assume that's when McTominay starts to attack. KDB drops in to kind of cover that half, then
Mm-hmm.
do a pass back and forth, getting another ball into the box, something like that. But
Yeah, or there are probably times where, again, if KDB is going into that side of the field, then McTominay will play off of him and drop back a little deeper, shift more to the middle. So like
and
I don't
Gisa
know how
manages to
you
be
plan to
everywhere.
defend against that.
And Gisa manages to be everywhere. When we went to the Cagliari game, I was with a friend that he doesn't really watch soccer, but we were in Italy together. So I said, "You're coming to the game with us," and he's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, absolutely." And the whole time he's like, "Who's this guy with the dreads? Who is he? Where did he come from? How much did he cost?" Like he was
Yeah,
amazed by him,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's got his foot in everything.
This is why we can't take him off, and we probably just take it for granted now because we've seen him play so much. But it's really unbelievable, and I'm gonna keep shouting out Danny, who picked him to be the MVP for this season. But who knows? I think it's still a possibility. The last thing I'll say in terms of just general notes on Napoli's performance is that I feel like the mentality has finally changed as well. And that probably comes with first and foremost with Antonio Conte, but also again with a player like De Bruyne, where we saw it against Pisa and we saw it again in this match, where even though we scored first and even though we conceded an equalizer, they seemed completely unfazed, just continued to dominate play, didn't force anything, were patient, and eventually that winner came. And to me, that is an indication that the mentality is at least changing, if not has already changed.
That could also be going back to the subs with the confidence that guys like Lang and Neres are bringing in off the bench. Gilmore is composed, like you don't see him panic, absolutely nothing on all his substitutions. So our late game execution is definitely a lot better than it was a few years ago. I don't want to say the 2023 Scudetto season because that was a runaway. It was almost like we didn't even have to worry about closing out games with the lead that we had going into the final month. Um, but yeah, with it's the Conte effect too.
Yeah.
I mean, he brings such a presence to that in the game. It's like you have no choice if you want to let up, if you want to slack at some point, you're not playing. He has no problem with that. He did that with Cavaro at the beginning of the year, where he pulled him in the. It was one of the first games. Cavaro got pulled in the 63rd minute, leaves off the back line, gets all pissy, and Conte said, "I don't care what your name is. Like, you're either playing or you're not."
Yeah, well, if he's gonna tell De Bruyne of all people that you're messing with the
Exactly.
wrong guy, he's he's absolutely not afraid to take anybody off. And then I think it also, like, winning breeds winning, right? And 2 Scudetti in 3 seasons. I think that gives the players themselves.
They're so spoiled.
I know.
I'm like giddy thinking about this and talking about this. I can't believe it. Two
Yeah.
and three seasons, Champions League talk. This is
See, that
awesome.
means we haven't yet assumed the winning mentality.
I guess, yeah. We're still stuck in a decade ago when we were
Yeah,
happy to make the Copa final.
yeah. Not to close on a negative, but I think the one area that maybe, and there's an obvious reason for it, even though Conte, again, going back to winning mentality, he will not make any excuses and does not. But the one area that probably does still have room for improvement is on the defensive end. In this case, it was like a soft penalty, so I'm not going to be too hard on the guys. I think for a lineup where even Conte said our entire back line, including our goalkeeper, was different than last season, which I didn't even think about until he said it. And we had Vanya in goal, we had Spinazzola at right back,
Yeah.
Bokema in the middle with Juan Jesus, who was mostly the backup, and then Gutierrez, that literally an entirely different back line. But we are conceding more goals than we did last season. Obviously, we had the best defense in Europe last season, or the top 5 leagues. Milan is conceding very little, and they're playing once a week, and the best defense tends to win the league. So I think that's still an area that could improve, but I think also we got to recognize that
We'll
we're
see what happens
missing
when that Nani
like all
comes
our
back.
stored. Exactly.
How Buongiorno does in his recovery, and yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens and take it from there. But right now, we're playing with our second team defense. Like if we can manage to just hang in there and keep winning games, I don't care what we're conceding. Like we got to put the ball in the net.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's nice to have more production from the striker position, because last year we were great. There's always this kind of trade-off, right? And so this year we might be conceding more, but we're also scoring more and we're getting more production from our strikers. Whereas last year we were conceding less, but we needed McTominay and Anguissa to contribute goals because we weren't getting enough from the striker position. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. As to your point, as long as we're getting 3 points, I don't really care
Yeah,
how
exactly.
they come, especially given the mini injury crisis we've got going on right now. Any other final thoughts on this match before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. What do we have here? No, we covered quite a bit between Kenda, Gutierrez, Højlund, the subs with Neres. I mean, I've never watched Sporting up until this game, so outside of Kenda, and yeah, I was impressed with him.
Yeah, I wasn't. Obviously, I don't watch Sporting either. But I did. I remember when the Champions League draw happened. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, yeah, we got a great draw and whatever." And I remember thinking, like, I don't know, those Portuguese teams, and to get
Oh
both
yeah,
Sporting and Benfica, I didn't love the idea. I was happy to walk away with the 3 points because I thought they held their own in this match for sure, and Conte gave them credit after the match as well. So I guess the only other thing that might be worth mentioning is there were some. I don't know what it is where these fans come to Napoli and
I
feel
know,
like they
man.
got to break stuff, and I feel like it just actually fuels the idea that Napoli is like this dangerous place to go to, and it's not Neapolitans that are doing anything; it's the people visiting.
Mhm.
So I don't know, just a mention on that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it's too bad. I mean, it shouldn't bring any negative connotations to the city at all, given it's not us, it's not our fans. It's literally these away crowds coming in and just causing a ruckus for God knows what reason.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I'm sure it happens in Manchester too.
yeah. I
You
mean,
just
these
don't hear
things
about
happen
it.
everywhere. Yeah, exactly. All right, I think we can wrap it up there. Frank, thanks so much for coming on.
All right, man. Yeah, no problem.
Before I let you go, you can be found on X at fpila51, and if people more importantly want to find their music, I think it's just at Frank Pila on Spotify, right?
Yep, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, anywhere.
Awesome.
Just me and a guitar.
Yeah, and every single episode of the podcast,
Yep, yep.
which
It's a
I absolutely love.
very nice tarantella you squeezed me into there. Really happy about that one.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. I love it. If you want to get a hold of me, even though I can't play any instruments if my life depended on it, you can find me at Joe_Fischetti5 on X mostly. You can find the podcast on all your usual social media channels. I'm still trying to do the TikTok thing and the reels and all of this stuff on Instagram. People seem to
Good
like
luck.
those even more than the podcast now. Nobody has any attention span anymore. Please just watch a full episode if you don't mind, and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're there as well. If you're watching the YouTube and you want the audio version, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. I will be back probably at some point next week. I may not be able to do a Genoa review, but I'll try to squeeze one in if I'm not still too hungover from my sister's wedding. But until until next time, I'm Joe Fischetti. Forza Napoli sempre.